Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Radhanath Swaminiti Namini. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharini Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini. Umajnanatimirandasya Jnanajana Salakaya Chakshurmilitamena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaga. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sakagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneswari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarpiyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vachapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaga Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Isvaraga Paramaha Krishnaga Satchidananda Vigrahaga Anadi Radir Govindaga Sarvakarana Karanam. Hare Krishna. So we are in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So that is the three modes of material nature. So we understand Krishna is very clearly explaining here about the three modes like Sattva, Rajo and Tamo Gunas. What we understand that Krishna is saying that material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So, in fact, it says that Nibandranti Mahabaho Deghe Deginam Avyam. These three modes of material nature. They are binding. They are binding the body, soul inside the body. So that's why I explained in the last lecture that anyone who has got a material body, that means anyone who has taken birth in this material world, they are controlled by the three modes of nature. That's the reason we are here. Because of those modes of nature only is actually binding the soul inside the body. Nibandhanti Mahabahu Dege Deginam. But we see people with various characteristics, various personalities. How that variation is coming? That is because of these three modes of material nature, because it's not a single mode of nature where everybody will acting it in the same way, but it is the three modes of nature and a particular combination of these three modes of nature. Like there are only three basic colors. When you mix them in different proportions, you will get all different colors. So like that, there are only three modes of material nature: Sattva, Rajo, and Tamo Guna. So with the different proportions of these three modes of material nature, a person has got a particular personality, unique personality. Each and every individual is unique from birth. It's from birth. That shows very, very clearly that we are bringing these modes of nature. In fact, these modes of nature are binding us inside this body right from birth. That's why a child, from the child itself, we can see that some child is very, very calm, very, some childs are very naughty and doing all kinds of problems, creating. So everything from the child itself, we will know that not everybody is same by birth. So this is because of the three modes of material. So when the mode of goodness is binding us, that's going to bind us to the happiness and knowledge. That's what we studied. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakasaka manamayam sukha sangena badnati jnana sangena chana. So the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by the sense of happiness and knowledge. That's what Tatra Sattvam Nirmalatvat Prakasakam Anamayam Sukha Sangena Badnadi Jnana Sangena Chala. Whereas the mode of passion, what is the mode of passion does? It binds one to the work. Rajo Ragatmakam Vidhi Krishna Sanga Samudbhavam Tannibadnati Kaunteya Karma Sangena Degnam. So Karma Sangena. Karma Sangena means bondage to work. So if you are in the mode of goodness, we will be bound to knowledge and happiness. If we are in the mode of passion, we will be bound to work. So sometimes we are in the having the knowledge, able to have peace of mind, happiness. That means at that time we are in the mode of goodness. But most of the time we are very much passionate, very much working, doing all kinds of ugra karma. So lot of work, horrible work we are doing. It's so much of force. It's coming from all directions, all sides. So that shows that we are actually forced by the mode of passion, the Rajoguna. That's because of our attachment. If we have attachment, then we are bound by the mode of passion. And also we see that we are very lazy to get up, lazy to do a lot of things. So that comes from the mode of ignorance. So these are all coming from the three modes of material nature. That's why Krishna summarized everything in that one sloka, in the 9th sloka. O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance covering one's knowledge and binds one to madness. So ignorance covering one's knowledge binds one to madness. So that's one. So happiness, fruitive action, and madness. Happiness from goodness, fruitive action from the passion, and madness comes from the ignorance. So we also understood that sometimes the mode of goodness becomes predominant, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. Rajas tamas chabibhuyaga sattvam bhavati parth. At some other times the mode of passion becomes predominant. At some other times the mode of ignorance becomes predominant. That's what rajas tamas chabibhuyaga sattvam bhavati bharata. Rajasattvam tamas chaiva tamasattvam rajastav. So now, what happens when there is an increase in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance? That's what we studied last. The manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. When we have the knowledge. When we have the knowledge means the knowledge of this Bhagavad Gita. We are very, very fortunate that we are getting this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. We are understanding about our own self. So when we have this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, so that means we are very peaceful. When we are studying this every time, we are very peaceful. And our life is becoming very purposeful, meaningful. Because we are getting clarity in our life, what we are supposed to do, what we should not do. Everything is becoming like when everything is revealed. Otherwise, without knowing all these things, this life is very, very problematic, full of trouble only, full of miseries. So when there is an increase in mode of passion, what happens? The symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop. This is applicable to everyone, irrespective of whether they believe in this or not. That doesn't matter. It is applicable. That's the fact. The modes of nature, it won't distinguish whether a person belongs to a particular faith or not and all. It is going to act on each and everyone in the same way. So, and when there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested. Now, in the next two slokas, Krishna is teaching us that what happens when we die in the mode of goodness, our passion and ignorance. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. Whereas when one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities. That means in this earthly planets. When one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom. That's what we studied last time until these slokas. So now Krishna is continuing that the result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness. But action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. This is the result of the action. So when we die in the mode of think, what will happen? When we increase in the mode of goodness, passion, ignorance, what is happened? And then what is the result of these things also? Krishna is. All these things Krishna is explaining. Everything about the modes of nature. If somebody is in the mode of goodness, and what is going to be the result? The result of the pious action. That is the mode of goodness. Karmanaga, sukrutas, satvikam, nirmalam palam. That is the purity. So that's what nirmal. So everything, our life itself is purified. Our self itself is purified. Our atma is purified. Soul. Whereas rajasastu palam, dukkham. So in one thing gives sukham. Here sukrita syagugu, satvikam nirmalam. So nirmalam means it is sukha sangyana. It is going to bind us to happiness. Whereas the Rajoguna is going to bind us to the result. The end result of Rajoguna is dukkham only. If we are very much attached to the material sense objects, we are forced to act because of such attachment and with intense endeavors and all such things. The result is distress, dukkham. If we have ignorance, what is the palam? Foolishness. So if we are in the mode of tamoguna, tamaha, tamasaka, palam is foolishness, ajnana. Ajnana is very ignorance, foolishness. Ignorance is very dangerous. It's not blissful at all. It's very dangerous. If we don't know, if we are ignorant about ourselves, if we don't know that we are the soul, if we don't know how to free ourselves from the three modes of material nature, that means we are going to come back to this material world again and again forever. We are never going to stop this cycle. So that's what foolishness. So the result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness, but action in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. And satvat sanjayate jnanam rajaso lobhayeva pramada mogha tamaso bhavato ajnanam eva. So Krishna is again continuing that satvat sanjayate jnanam. It's the same thing, whatever he taught in the beginning also. So from the mode of goodness, knowledge develops. So from the mode of goodness, knowledge develops. From knowledge, happiness comes. So from the mode of Rajoguna, what happens? Greediness only develops. Lobha. If you are very much attached to the material sense objects, then greediness develops, not the knowledge. Then pramada moha tamaso bhavato ajnanam. Again the same thing. Ajnanam. Ajnanam means it's foolishness, ignorance. So that's what develops from these three modes of nature. We are very clear. Krishna is repeating the same point again and again using different slokas to give us the point. Understanding is that the Satoguna leads one to knowledge and happiness. Rajoguna leads one to intense endeavor, work, fruitive activity. And the Tamoguna leads one to foolishness, madness, ignorance, all such things. And now, again Krishna is teaching here that Urdum gachanti satvasta madhyete stanti rajasa jahanya guna vrittista adho gachanti tamas. So the mode of goodness actually only leads to higher planets. So that's what Urdum gachanti satvasta. It leads to higher planets. Madhyete stanti rajasa. Whereas it leads to the middle level planets. There's the earthly planets, the Rajoguna. If you are with Rajoguna, we will come back to earthly planets like this. That's why in this earth, we will find a lot of people with so much of passionate people with Rajoguna. Everyone will be working, doing all kinds of activities. That's what is very active in this Rajoguna. Whereas in the Tamoguna, if go to the hellish planets, it is full of Tamoguna. Adho gachanti tamasa. Jaganya guna vrittista. Adho gachanti tamasa. So that's what Krishna is teaching. So those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish planets. So now Krishna is teaching in these two slokas. It's very important, nice slokas, how we can escape from these three modes of nature. How is it possible for us? Because we understand that these modes of nature are binding. Even the mode of goodness is binding to knowledge and happiness, but still we are bound in this material well. Because all these modes of nature are applicable only for this material body. Once we are freed from the modes of nature, we will not have this material body at all. So that's what is very important. So the mode of goodness is good because it leads to liberation. We can be freed from the modes of nature. But how we can free from all these three modes of material nature? Krishna is teaching us very important point here that Nanyam gunebhya kartaram yada drashtanupasi. One should see that nothing other than the three modes of material nature are active. That is the point here. We should have the eyes of knowledge, this Bhagavad Gita knowledge, and should be able to see that the three modes of material nature only alone are active. So he will be able to transcend the modes of nature. Gunebhyascha param veti madbhavam sovadhigachati. He will be able to attain my nature. He will be able to transcend the modes of nature. So that is Krishna's nature. So if we are freed from the modes of nature, that is Krishna's nature. So that means we are ineligible to come back to this material well. We cannot take another birth in this material well. There is no way we can come to this material well again if we are freed from the modes of nature. So that's why Krishna is teaching us that we should think that we are not the doer, only the three modes of material nature are the doer. We should be able to see in each and everyone's activity, in all activities, only three modes of material nature are doing everything. And we will be easily, with this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, we will be easily able to really find out what is the reason this person is acting in this mode of, for example, if somebody is in the mode of passion, we can find it out what is the reason, because what is a particular reason? There is attachment. What attachment is making this person to act this way? We will be able to figure it out. The root cause is very clear. If we are attached to something, then anger comes, krodha, passion comes, anger comes, everything comes. Confusion comes, everything comes. Jumping around, creating all kinds of chaos, nonsense, all such things we will do when we are attached to the material sense of it. So that means we are in the mode of passion. It's very easy to find it out. And sometimes we are so lazy, not able to do anything, simply sitting and wasting and watching movies and simply wasting time. That is all in the mode of ignorance. So Krishna is teaching here that if we are getting this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, if we are able to see how the modes of nature are acting, then we will be able to attain Krishna's nature. So that's why when one properly sees that in all living entities, no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. So what happens when we attain Krishna's nature? Gunanietan atitya trin degi dega samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkhe vimukto amritamashmut. So this janma mrityu jara dukkhe, birth, death, old age, and distress. In another sloka in the 13th chapter, Krishna is teaching us that janma mrityu jara vyadi. So vyadi means disease. Here dukkha. So there janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanu darshanam. He uses the word dukkha as the fifth one. So dukkha doshanu darshanam. So here Krishna is teaching us that one who is freed from these three modes of material nature. Threen. Threen means it is three. Somehow English three and Sanskrit three both are same. Threen. So atitya. Atitya means transcendent. So it is came out. So atitya. So gunan means the modes of nature. If one is freed from the modes of nature, then he will be also freed from vimukto. Vimukto means also freed. So here atitya also freed, vimukto means freed. When we are freed from the modes of nature, then we are freed from the janma mrityu jara dukkha, birth, death, old age, and distress. That is produced by deha, dega samudbhavan. Dega samudbhavan means it's produced by the body, our body. So birth, death, old age, disease, they are produced by the body. So dehi means the soul. The soul is freed from the body. That's what dehi dega samudbhavan vimukto. So dehi dega vimukto means the soul is freed from the body. So that means we are no longer forced to take material body again. So because we will reach the destination where there is no death. Amritam. Amritam means there is no death. Here mirtam. Mrityu means it is death. Whereas amritam means it is no death. So that's what is that. Amritam ashnude. Amritam means nectar. Nectar means it's no death. Amritam ashnude. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes of associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. So that's what Krishna is teaching. Now Arjuna is asking a very, very important question. Arjuna Vacha Kailingkai Strin Gunanyetanatītu Bhavati Prabhu Kimacharaga Katam Chaitan Trin Gunan Adivartate. So by what symptoms? Kailingai. So by which symptoms? So Trin Gunanetan Achito Bhavati Prabhu. So one who has transcended the three modes of nature, one who is freed from the three modes of nature. So how can I find him? By which symptoms he will be known? Kimacharaga means what behaviors. So Kim Kair Lingaisi means which symptoms. Kimacharaga means what behaviors. Kimacharaga Katam Chaitam. Katam means how can I know them? How? So Katam Chaitams Trin Gunan Ativate. How he is transcending from the three modes of nature. Arjuna is asking in the same sloka 3 questions. One is that, so what are his symptoms? Which symptoms one should be known that he is freed from the modes of nature? And what are the behaviors? And then how one can transcend from the modes of nature. Katham Chaitams Trin Gunan Ativate. So Arjuna inquired, oh my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior? And how does he transcend the modes of nature? So for that, Krishna is teaching that in the next 4 slokas. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Prakasam Cha Pravrittim Cha Mohameva Cha Pandava Nadveshti Sampravrittani Nanivrittani Kankshati Udasina Vadasino Gunairyo Navichalyate Gunavartamta Ityevam Yovattishtati Negate Samadukka Sukaka Swastaka Samaloshtashma Kanchanaga Tulya Priya Priyodiras Tulya Nindatma Samsutihi Mana Pamanayos Tulyo Mitrari Pakshayo Sarvaramba Parityagi Gunatitaga Sauchyate. So in 4 slokas, Krishna is answering Arjuna's question. So I will just directly go to the translation instead of going to word by word, but we will understand everything. It's very important. Krishna is teaching that the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, or delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear. So that means one who is completely freed from this material world, one who is not after anything. So that's what this means. Who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities. We know that the three modes of material nature are acting on us, but who is not disturbed, who is free, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active. So we should know. That means we should have the knowledge. We should have the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, knowing that the modes alone are active. Who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. So by repeatedly studying these slokas and trying to put ourselves, by gaining all these qualities ourselves, we can climb, we can prove that we are freed from the modes of material nature. So that is possible. So these are all very, very important slokas. That's why it is a science. This Bhagavad Gita is a science. And these three modes of material nature is a very, very important science. And we need to realize, we need to understand, and our goal, this life, this human life should be used to free ourselves from these modes of nature. Otherwise, we will be simply wasting this time, wasting this life. That's what is very, very, it's not good for us. If we miss this boat, if we miss this opportunity, this Bhagavad Gita is the boat of knowledge. It's jnana plavenaiva. which is used to cross beyond the ocean of material miseries. So if we don't have this knowledge, if we are not able to act with this knowledge, we cannot free ourselves from the three modes of material nature. If we are not able to free from the three modes of material nature, then we will be again coming back to this material world. Now, very important question comes, because Arjuna asked another question. So in the question, Krishna didn't answer all the three questions asked by Arjuna in this sloka. So Arjuna asked a question that Katham Chaitam Strin Gunan Ativatade. How can one transcend? How can one free from the three modes of material nature? In the next four slokas, what we just studied, Krishna answered what are the symptoms, what are the behaviors, so all such things. So a person, how you can find a person is freed from the modes of nature. But Katham Chaitam Strin Gunan Ativatade. How can one transcend the modes of nature? That's a very important question, correct? If we know answer for that question, then we can also transcend from the modes of nature. So that answer Krishna is giving in the next sloka. Just in one sloka, Krishna is teaching us that Maham Chayo Vyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samatityetan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. So, one who is rendering devotional service unto me without any deviation, without any fail. That's what I always say, that devotion without deviation. So that's what is very important. So Mam Chayo Avyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevat. Then Sagunan Samati Taitan, he will be able to transcend the three modes of material nature. Samati Taitan, Atitya. Atitya we already studied it. That is freeing up, transcending. So that's what. Sagunan Samati Taitan. Sagunan Samati Taitan. He will be able to transcend the modes of nature and attain the spiritual well. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpati. He will Brahman platform, elevated to the Brahman platform. So goes to the, basically once we are freed from the modes of nature, when we elevate ourselves to the Brahman platform, then we are not going to stay here anymore. When we die, when we are able to continue in the same status, Brahman status until the time of death, then we will be able to go to Goloka. Because when we are freed from the modes of nature, then since modes of nature we are freed, correct? So it cannot bind us inside this body. As long as we are controlled by the modes of nature, it is going to bind us in this body. Once we are freed from the modes of nature, then it cannot bind us to this material body again. So that means we are not going to take birth again in this material world when we are freed from the modes of nature. So now in the next sloka, Krishna is giving some knowledge about his world, that is Goloka, that is Brahman. Brahmano hi pratisthakam amritasya vyayasya cha sashvatasya cha dhammasya sukasya kantitasya cha. So I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. Amritasya, that is the place where there is no death. So it is eternal, nectar, amritasya, immortal. That's what amrita means, immortal. Avyayasya, it is eternal, it is imperishable. Avyayasya, Krishna's world, when we go there, nobody will die there. So that's why if we go to Krishna's world, we will not take birth again in this material world, because we will not die there. If we die, then only we will take birth. And it's because it's imperishable. And sasvatasya, it's eternal. Dharmasya, it's the constitutional position, dharmasya. Sukasya kantitasya, it's ultimate happiness. Sukasya kantitasya, ultimate happiness. So that's what Krishna is saying, that I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So that is the place we need to reach with this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So by Krishna's causeless mercy, we have successfully finished the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the three modes of material nature. And let us chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and focus our mind on the transcendental sound vibration. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Radhanath Swaminiti Namini. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanajana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama 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 Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, you could understand everything in the 14th chapter today. Okay.
I am confused by one thing in particular.
Uh-huh.
So I understand that the goal is to free oneself from the three modes of nature.
Yes.
But given that we are part of the physical world and our bodies are physical and require and depend upon physical maintenance, I don't understand how we could possibly free ourselves entirely, especially from the fruit of actions. Our bodies need food, need water, need physical shelter, and these things seem to be the results of fruitive actions.
That's a very important question which Krishna already answered in the 4th chapter. He says that if we are yadricha labha santushto dvandvatito vimatsaraga samaga siddha vasiddha ucha kritva pinani bhattade, then he also says that such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus, working is not affected by sinful reactions. So that's what Sariram Kevalam Karma. Sariram means just for maintaining our body. Sariram Kevalam Karma. The important point we need to understand that if we are not attached to the material sense object, that's what nirasya, no desires, no material desires. If we are able to give up all sense of proprietorship, that is very much possible. Mentally, we are able to renounce everything. So that's what Krishna says also in the 5th chapter, that one who is able to mentally renounce. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi. So manasa sanyasa. Manasa means with mind. Sanyasa means renounce. Mentally, if we are able to renounce, he will be able to live in the body, which is a city of 9 gates. He's not saying as body, but he says a city of 9 gates. That is the body. Navadvare pure degi naiva kurvan nakare. So 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and 1 mouth makes 7. Then 1 anus, 1 genital, 8 and 9. So that's what naiva kurvan nakare. He's not doing anything and is not causing anything to be done. So when the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of nine gates, neither working nor causing work to be done. So that way, one cannot give up the work completely. So even in the third chapter also, Krishna says that Niyatam kuru karmatvam karma jyayogi akarmanaka sarira yatra pichate na prasadayat akarmana. Perform your prescribed duty. For doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. So we have to work at least to maintain our physical body. Same thing in the 18th chapter also, Krishna says that Nahi deha prita sakyam tyaktum karmani asesatagam. So after getting this body, one cannot give up the work completely. So that's why Nahi deha prita, it is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities. But he who renounces the fruits of action is called one who is truly renounced. So that's what is very important. Yastu karma palatyagi satyagiti abhidiyat. So that is possible. So mentally we will be able to renounce. So the problem is the cause, the modes of nature is acting on us only when you are mentally attached to the results. For example, the mode of passion comes when we are attached to the results. The mode of passion. The mode of ignorance when we don't have any knowledge, we are under ignorance. So simply acting itself, doing itself is actually not done by the modes of nature, only because of our attachments, only it is doing. If we are not affected by the results, even though modes of nature are doing it, but if we are able to find happiness within ourself, we are not affected by the results at all. If we are able to find happiness within ourselves, then we are completely freed from the modes of nature. So that's what is very, very important. We should not be affected by the results of our activities. So then we are freed from the modes of nature. That's what Krishna is teaching us. So at that time we are not under the modes of nature. So Krishna is also saying that yes, atmaratireva syat atmatriptascha manavaga atmanyevacha santustaga tasya karyam na vidyate. That's what he says there. So that is one who is able to find happiness within the self. So atmaratireva syat atmatriptascha manavaga atmanyevacha. But one for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. You understand that? So that's what happens. So when we are fully connected with this knowledge,
I don't fully understand, but I suppose there's more reading to be done at this point.
Yeah. I think when we do more reading, then we will understand. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, but to certain extent, when we read it, so yeah, so at that time, the modes of nature, in fact, we need to understand the modes of nature are going to help us actually to liberate ourselves from this. They are not something like they like to condition us. They themselves are controlled by Krishna. Another thing is we need to know that modes of nature are controlled by Krishna. So when we are ready to, and when we are attached to Krishna, connected with Krishna, in fact, for your question, this sloka may answer it very clearly. So Krishna is saying that Deviki Esa Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratte. This divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So that's what here the difference for your question. The difference will be made when we have the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, when we realize that Krishna is everything, and when we are attached to Krishna, develop that love towards Krishna. So at that point of time, these modes of nature, we will be able to easily cross beyond it. That's what he says. Any of, as you said, if more reading, it will clarify everything. This itself is a big science. It needs so many iterations of studies, correct, to understand it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so any other questions, Kari?
Yeah, I was curious, and this might be a bigger overall question. If Krishna is not bound by the three modes of nature,
Yes.
and never has been, how does he know how to get free of them?
How does he know how to get free? Oh, because he is not bound by the modes of nature, but the modes of nature are bound by Krishna. That's the main thing. In the 7th chapter, he says that Echaiva satvika bhavaga rajasa tamasaschaye matta evaiti tan vidhi natvakam tesu temayam. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. They are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. So they are controlled by Krishna. So they are under Krishna's control. So that's why he says that my Maya, Devigi Esa Guna Mai, this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. So they are controlled by Krishna. In fact, it is something like in a company, like manager will be there, a director or CEO, somebody, then below him somebody, managers, below him some people, correct, the arc structure. So like that here in the architecture, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Under him, these three modes of material nature are there. They are controlling everything, actually. So that way, sometimes we can surpass directly, go to the big boss. So just with this knowledge, we don't have to be controlled by the modes of nature. So that way, Krishna knows everything. He is the knower of everything. That's what he says. So that way, these modes of nature are created by him. It is under his control. Does that answer your question?
A little bit, but I suppose this is a place where analogies are difficult, because I'm sitting here thinking about, how many bosses know what the lowliest intern is doing, or how many CEOs understand the fine detail of what their, data scientists are doing.
That's correct. That kind of understanding, you are right. You are very much right. We cannot, only to certain extent we can use it. But here Krishna knows everything. He's in and out of everything. Everything, without himself knowing, nothing can happen. That is the thing. Yeah. That analogy is not for in sense for not completely, but to certain extent only we can use it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
thank you.
Yeah. I think when we study these slokas verses again and again for a very long time, we will get the full picture of this Bhagavad Gita. So then everything makes a lot of sense. But it is so much of knowledge which I have never heard of, correct? That's the main thing, these three modes of nature. We will not be able to find out this knowledge anywhere else. Okay.
Well, thank you for sharing with me.
Sure, thanks, Karim. We'll again see the next week. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye. Have a nice day and a nice week. Actually, I think it's going to be a very nice week, coming week, weather-wise.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you. You have a good week as well.
Yes, you too. Thank you. Bye.